Hello. Today, I want to share with you a mysterious case that remains unsolved to this day, the disappearance of Zebb Quinn. On the night of January 2nd, 2000, this young man vanished under circumstances that seemed straightforward at first but soon unraveled into a series of strange and unsettling events. Join me as we journey back in time to uncover the details of this perplexing case. Zebb Quinn was born on May 12, 1981, near Asheville, North Carolina. His friends and family described him as a cheerful, gentle, and kind-hearted young man. After graduating from high school, he chose not to attend college and instead worked in the electronics department at Walmart. However, his life began to take a dramatic turn when he met Misty Taylor. Zebb and Misty gradually grew close through multiple interactions. However, he had no idea that her presence in his life would soon lead to serious complications. When they first met, Misty concealed important details about her personal life. In reality, she was not single. She had a boyfriend named Wesley Smith and even shared a child with him. What was even more alarming was that Wesley was a known thug, a dangerous and highly controlling individual. He frequently threatened and coerced Misty, subjecting her to relentless abuse over trivial matters, making her life suffocating and filled with fear. Perhaps due to her difficult circumstances, Misty sought emotional comfort in Zebb, a young man who treated her with kindness. At first, Zebb was unaware of Misty's situation, so it was understandable that he developed feelings for her. However, as time passed and his friends learned about their relationship, they immediately warned him to stay away. They even told him about Wesley's violent nature. Despite their warnings, Zebb refused to listen. He was deeply in love and completely blinded by his emotions, unwilling to believe what his friends were telling him. Over time, his friends felt helpless, unable to change his mind. According to Zebb's family and friends, Wesley became furious when he discovered Zebb and Misty's relationship. Despite this, the two continued to communicate in secret. Then, just 2 days before New Year's, about 4 days before Zebb disappeared, Misty abruptly cut off all contact. Zebb's messages to her went unanswered, leaving him anxious and worried. After 2 consecutive days of failed attempts to reach her, on the morning of January 1st, 2000, Zebb could no longer bear the silence. Normally, he would send a message before calling, and only dial her number once she confirmed she was available to talk. This time, however, his concern and impatience got the best of him. Without waiting any longer, he decided to call her directly. What he didn't expect was that the person who answered the phone wasn't Misty. It was her boyfriend, Wesley Smith. It remains unclear what Wesley said during the call, but according to Zebb's grandmother, he appeared extremely worried after hanging up. After calling Misty, Zebb went to work at Walmart as usual, despite it being a Sunday. It was January 2nd, 2000. That evening, he never returned home, leaving his mother deeply worried. On January 3rd, she began sending him messages, asking where he had been all night. However, after multiple texts went unanswered, her concern grew. By January 4th, she decided to report his disappearance to the police and contacted Walmart to inform them that her son was missing. Shortly after Zebb's mother alerted Walmart, another call was made to the store. The caller identified himself as Zebb Quinn and claimed he was feeling unwell, requesting a few days off. However, what the caller didn't anticipate was that the person answering the phone was one of Zebb's department managers, someone who had developed a close relationship with him over time. Recognizing Zebb's voice well, the manager immediately realized that the caller was an imposter. Connecting this to Zebb's mother's report that he was missing, the manager grew alarmed and promptly contacted the police. The case took an even stranger turn when investigators arrived at Walmart to gather information. While questioning Zebb's coworkers, one of them provided a critical lead. The coworker stated that on the evening of January 2nd, after finishing his shift around 9 p.m., he saw Zebb speaking with a man named Robert Jason Owens in the Walmart parking lot. The police took note of this new information, but before they could act on it, the department manager had a sudden realization. Growing visibly excited, he told investigators that the voice on the call asking for time off had sounded extremely familiar. At first, he couldn't place it, but as soon as his colleague mentioned Jason Owens, everything clicked. He was certain that the voice on the phone belonged to Jason Owens. But who is Robert Jason Owens, and what role does he play in Zebb's mysterious disappearance? Jason had previously worked at Walmart, and during that time, he and Zebb became close colleagues and friends. They not only worked together, but also spent time together outside of work. So when police realized that finding Jason might lead them to Zebb's whereabouts, they quickly tracked him down. When questioned, Jason did not attempt to hide anything. He admitted that he was the one who had made the phone call requesting time off for Zebb. However, when pressed further about Zebb's whereabouts, Jason told a strange story, one that only deepened the mystery. According to Jason, around 9 p.m. on January 2nd, after finishing his shift, Zebb met him in the Walmart parking lot. During their conversation, Zebb mentioned that he was thinking about buying a new car. Jason immediately suggested that a friend of his had one for sale and asked if Zebb would like to check it out. Zebb seemed interested, but mentioned that he was feeling thirsty and wanted to grab a drink first. The two then decided to stop at a gas station across from Walmart to buy refreshments. By that time, it was around 9:15 p.m. After buying their drinks, they set off, with Jason leading the way and Zebb following behind. However, after some time on the road, Jason noticed Zebb repeatedly flashing his headlights. Sensing that something was wrong, Jason pulled over to the side of the road. When they stopped, Zebb quickly got out and told Jason that he had just received an important message and needed to call the sender back. He asked if Jason had a phone, but Jason replied that he did not. Zebb then said he would go find a payphone and asked Jason to wait for him. With that, Zebb got back into his car and drove off, leaving Jason by the roadside. About 10 minutes later, Jason saw Zebb returning, but something was off. Zebb was driving at high speed, appearing agitated and out of control. As he approached, he suddenly crashed into the rear of Jason's parked vehicle. Shocked, Jason immediately asked what had happened. Zebb, however, only replied that he had an emergency and could no longer go see the car as planned. He insisted that he needed to leave immediately. Regarding the damage to Jason's car, Zebb said they would deal with it later. Without further explanation, he sped off into the night. That was the last time Jason saw him. Jason also claimed that Zebb's request for time off on January 4th was something Zebb had personally asked him to do. According to Jason, Zebb had called him earlier and requested that he contact Walmart to inform them he would be absent. This, Jason said, was the full extent of his involvement. On the surface, Jason's story seemed complete and relatively straightforward. However, from the investigator's perspective, he was the last known person to have direct contact with Zebb before his disappearance. While his account was plausible, the police needed to verify its accuracy. Yet, despite their efforts, the verification process yielded inconclusive results, leaving lingering doubts about whether Jason's story could be trusted. Zebb's mother confirmed that her son had recently been considering purchasing a new car. Additionally, security footage from the gas station across from Walmart showed two individuals buying drinks, which seemed to support Jason's account. However, as the police dug deeper, they uncovered several suspicious inconsistencies. On the morning of January 2nd, Jason went to the hospital with head injuries and broken ribs. When questioned about how he sustained these injuries, he told police he had been in a car accident. Yet, he was unable to provide any evidence to support his claim. A broken rib is a serious injury, one that typically requires medical documentation or an official report. However, Jason had never reported the accident to the police or filed an insurance claim for his medical expenses, raising further doubts about his story. Investigators also failed to find any witnesses who could verify the crash, and even more puzzling, Jason's car showed only minor damage, hardly consistent with injuries as severe as he claimed. These discrepancies cast serious doubt on his testimony, making investigators increasingly suspicious. Despite this, Jason continued to adamantly deny any involvement in Zebb's disappearance, further complicating the case. A few days later, a new clue emerged, one that seemed to lend some credibility to Jason's story. During their investigation, the police contacted Zebb's telecommunications provider to verify details about the text message he had received around 9 p.m. on January 2nd. Their findings confirmed that Zebb had indeed received a message at that time, and it was sent by his aunt, Ina Uston. When questioned, Ina explained that she had spent that evening having dinner with her friend, Tamra Block. Also present at the meal were Tamra's daughter, Misty, and her boyfriend, Wesley. However, Ina then revealed something even more unsettling. That same evening, she had a strong feeling that someone had broken into her house. While nothing was stolen, she noticed that picture frames and other household items had been mysteriously moved. Though the changes were subtle, they were significant enough for her to suspect that an intruder had entered her home without leaving any clear signs of forced entry. Yet, since nothing was missing and there was no major disturbance, she chose not to report the incident to the police. At this stage of the investigation, detectives found themselves overwhelmed and frustrated. The case was not lacking in clues, on the contrary, they had gathered numerous details. However, none of the evidence fit together in a logical or cohesive way. Every piece of information stood alone, disconnected from the others, leaving investigators without a clear path forward. The more they uncovered, the more tangled and confusing the case became. Then on January 6th, 4 days after Zebb's disappearance, an unexpected and deeply puzzling event occurred. Zebb's car was discovered at a barbecue restaurant called Little Pigs, located directly across from the hospital where his mother worked. When police arrived at the scene, they immediately noticed several strange and unsettling details. The windshield had a noticeable crack, and the headlights were still on, as if the car had only recently been used. Most bizarrely, the rear windshield bore a large red lipstick mark in the shape of lips, along with a strange symbol resembling an exclamation mark. The mystery deepened when officers searched the car's interior. Inside, they found a coat that did not belong to Zebb, a hotel key of unknown origin, and a black Labrador-like puppy, identified as belonging to Tremont, though its connection to the case remained unclear. Adding to the confusion, the driver's seat was pushed far forward, suggesting that someone significantly shorter than Zebb had been behind the wheel. Upon seeing the car, Zebb's mother immediately suspected that it had been intentionally placed there by someone familiar with her workplace, perhaps as a message or taunt. The strange and seemingly deliberate placement of the vehicle only added to her distress, while investigators were left even more perplexed. As police continued their investigation, they uncovered a crucial new lead. Two witnesses, a couple, came forward, claiming to have seen someone parking Zebb's car at the Little Pigs restaurant. According to their account, the driver was a woman. The witnesses provided a detailed description, which was then used to create a police sketch. When the sketch was completed, it sent shockwaves through the investigation, because the woman in the drawing bore a striking resemblance to Misty, Zebb's former love interest. This unexpected revelation raised even more questions. If Misty had been seen driving Zebb's car, what role had she played in his disappearance? Investigators were eager to confront her, but there was a problem. On the night in question, Misty had an alibi. Despite the strong resemblance between her and the woman in the sketch, there was no solid evidence linking her to the crime. And so, the case once again hit a dead end. For years, no new breakthroughs emerged, leaving investigators, Zebb's family, and the public grappling with unanswered questions. Even after decades, the disappearance of Zebb Wayne Quinn remains an enduring mystery, one filled with strange clues, eerie coincidences, and a web of secrets that have yet to be unraveled. Time passed quickly, and in 2007, a small but unexpected development occurred in the case of Zebb's disappearance. A person directly involved in the case, Jason Owens, was arrested. However, his arrest was not related to Zebb. The incident began when Jason was driving down a road and unexpectedly came across a police traffic checkpoint. Instead of stopping as required, Jason accelerated and sped through the checkpoint, prompting the police to immediately pursue him. After nearly half an hour of high-speed chasing through the streets, Jason was eventually apprehended. What is striking is that the cause of this chase was not a serious crime, but simply the fact that Jason's driver's license had been revoked for an unknown reason. The fact that Jason caused such a thrilling chase just because he didn't have a driver's license was strange and hard to imagine. However, for Jason, it was perhaps not a major incident, as he couldn't have known that this would be one of the smallest things in his life. Just 8 years after the chase in 2015, Jason was arrested again, this time for a much more serious crime than driving without a license. He was charged with the brutal murder of J.T. Codd and Christy Schoen, a crime so horrific that even those who knew him couldn't have imagined. At the time of the disappearance of J.T. Codd and Christy Schoen, Christy was pregnant and the couple lived in Leicester, North Carolina. She also owned a small cafe in the area where the couple had settled and worked. This made their sudden disappearance very unusual, as there was no clear reason for them to leave town abruptly. Moreover, the situation became even stranger when people noticed that the couple had stopped answering calls from family and friends. This was a very concerning sign, as no one could imagine why a married couple, especially when Christy was pregnant, would suddenly disappear and stop all contact. On February 16, 2015, according to a neighbor's report, Jason Owens was arrested. This news came as a huge shock to the family of J.T. Codd and Christy Schoen, as they received the heartbreaking notification. The latest information revealed that J.T. Codd and Christy Schoen and their unborn child Skylar were no longer alive. Their previous disappearance was now explained, but it was tragic news, and no one could have imagined that they were gone, especially since Christy was pregnant and Skylar had never been born. A neighbor had witnessed Jason carrying large, suspicious bags and throwing them into a trash bin. The neighbor felt something was wrong and immediately called the police to report Jason's actions. Soon after, the police investigated Jason's house, and when they searched thoroughly, a horrifying discovery was made. The bodies of the couple, J.T. Codd and Christy Schoen, were found in Jason's kitchen. At the time, Jason was a contractor working for the couple. The incident began when Jason called the couple to inform them that he had a problem with his car. He claimed the car's tire was stuck in the mud and couldn't move. Hearing this, the couple went outside to help push the car from behind while Jason remained inside trying to accelerate. However, after several attempts, the car still couldn't move. Jason then decided to try reversing to free the car. However, he forgot that there were two people standing behind the car. When he pressed the accelerator, the car unexpectedly reversed and struck the couple, instantly killing J.T. Codd, and Christy Schoen also didn't survive, passing away shortly afterward. Initially, Jason planned to report the accident, but fearing that he would face prison time, he decided to take a reckless and cruel action. Instead of notifying the authorities, Jason dismembered the couple's bodies and burned them in his kitchen stove. He then moved their car and took some of their belongings to create the appearance of a robbery, in an attempt to cover up his crime. After the police discovered the remains of the couple, they conducted a second search of Jason's home. During the search, the police found pieces of leather fabric and some unidentified hard fragments under a concrete fish pond. However, there was no official information confirming whether these fragments were human bones. Later, the police in Asheville carried out a search of Jason Owens' property. During the search, they found unidentifiable leather material, fragments, and a white powder of unknown origin. In another area of the property, the authorities discovered many plastic bags containing a substance that might be crushed lime or a mortar mixture. However, the authorities did not comment on whether these fragments were human bones or whether they had discovered Zebb Quinn's remains, as the investigation was still ongoing. These items, along with the concrete, were seized from Owens' property that day. The search occurred after an unnamed relative of Owens led the police back to his house and revealed that Owens had poured concrete over an area of 8 feet by 8 feet and was building a fish pond after Quinn's disappearance in January 2000. This person also stated that the pond was located in a remote area of the property, making it inconvenient to use, and it was still unfinished. Owens had covered the pond with earth, leaving an area of about 20 to 17 feet. In 2017, Jason Owens decided to plead guilty to avoid the death penalty, which led to his conviction. Specifically, on April 27, 2017, after a trial, Jason Owens was sentenced to a lengthy prison term. He was sentenced to at least 59 years in prison, with a maximum of 74 years, meaning that his punishment would last for the rest of his life, with no chance of freedom until his death. More than 2 months after Jason Owens received his severe sentence for his previous crimes, On July 10, 2017, he was once again brought to court. This time, Jason faced charges related to the mysterious death of Zebb Quinn. This marked a new turn in the case, which had lasted for many years and attracted widespread attention. Notably, it had been over 6 years since information about Zebb's disappearance first surfaced, but the details surrounding the case remained a great mystery. The situation was not only complicated by the long passage of time, but also by the contradictions and unclear points in the details that had been disclosed. The unresolved aspects of the case made it a subject of numerous theories and speculations from both professional detectives and online communities. The suspicious coincidences between Jason and Zebb made it impossible for detectives to ignore, prompting them to continue investigating and uncovering the truth. On January 1, 2000, a strange series of events began surrounding the disappearance of Zebb Quinn. According to the gathered information, on that day, Zebb had called Misty, the woman he had feelings for. However, instead of Misty, the person who answered the phone was Wesley, her boyfriend. Not only did Wesley answer the call, but it is also believed that he threatened Zebb over the phone. Immediately after the call ended, Zebb shared that he felt he was in trouble. The eerie coincidence is that, on the same night Zebb received that threatening phone call, he mysteriously disappeared. But the story does not end there. That same night, Zebb's phone suddenly received a text message from his aunt's number. However, when asked, Zebb's aunt confirmed that she had not sent any text message, as she was having dinner at Misty's mother's house at that time. Strangely, during her absence from home, the aunt's house was broken into by an unknown intruder. Less than a day later, Zebb's car was found with unusual signs. According to witnesses at the scene, the person driving the car was described as a woman who bore a striking resemblance to Misty, directly related to Zebb and Wesley. Throughout the entire series of events related to Zebb Quinn's mysterious disappearance, it seems that every phase has a direct or indirect connection to Misty's family. In contrast, Jason Owens' role in this story seems less significant, potentially only a secondary figure in Zebb's disappearance. The times Jason was previously arrested, such as the highway pursuit incident, were actually due to driving without a license. His later arrest also related to burglary and theft, with no clear link to Zebb's case. Going back to December 31, 1999, when Zebb was talking on the phone with Misty, Wesley, her boyfriend, had unintentionally discovered this conversation. This made Wesley extremely angry. He warned Misty not to contact Zebb anymore. From that moment on, Zebb stopped receiving any messages or calls from Misty. Zebb was unaware of what had transpired between Misty and Wesley, nor of the underlying tension. Therefore, on January 2nd, he took the initiative to call Misty, hoping to talk to her and clear up any misunderstandings. However, this act became the last straw, prompting Wesley, Misty's boyfriend, to lose control. His anger reached a boiling point, and he decided to teach Zebb a lesson, severing all communication between him and Misty. Wesley's plan was simple but meticulously calculated. He invited Zebb's aunt over for dinner. This invitation, with both Wesley and Misty present, created a seemingly normal and friendly setting. The plan had two main objectives. Firstly, the presence of Zebb's aunt at the dinner would serve as a strong alibi for Wesley, as she was a reliable witness who could confirm that both Wesley and Misty were together with her at the time of the incident. This would protect Wesley from suspicion if anything happened to Zebb. Secondly, by luring Zebb's aunt away from home with a dinner invitation, Wesley could secretly arrange for someone to break into her house. The goal of the break-in wasn't to steal property, but to use the phone at the aunt's house to send a text message to Zebb. This message would create a sense of urgency and worry, suggesting that Misty was in danger. The message sent from Zebb's aunt's phone would lend great credibility to the message, as Zebb knew his aunt was serious and would never joke about something important. This made Zebb immediately feel worried and anxious without any suspicion. His anxiety drove him to respond quickly, perhaps by calling back or going to check things out in person. This immediate reaction led him straight into a trap carefully set by Wesley. Not only did Wesley ensure he had a clear alibi, but he also cleverly led Zebb into a dangerous situation that he could not foresee. Additionally, the message sent from Zebb's aunt's house was also a crucial part of Wesley's plan to cover up his actions. When Zebb called back to verify the message, the recipient could fabricate a convincing story, such as Misty being in imminent danger and needing urgent help. The person texting could instruct Zebb to meet at a specific location to resolve the issue. In his panic and concern for Misty, Zebb wouldn't have time to think or reconsider. This is very likely why he lost control and crashed into Jason's car on the way, as his mind was completely preoccupied with the urgency of the situation. As a close friend, Jason couldn't ignore the situation. Seeing his friend in distress, he decided to accompany Zebb to the meeting, believing it would help resolve the issue. However, they didn't anticipate that at the meeting location, the people Wesley had arranged to meet them were experienced thugs with a violent attitude. When the confrontation took place, Zebb and Jason were no match for this group. During the chaos, Zebb was beaten to death, while Jason was seriously injured. After the incident, the group realized that Jason was still alive and could pose a threat if he decided to report everything. To cover their tracks and prevent Jason from revealing anything, they forced him to handle Zebb's body in the way they directed. Furthermore, to ensure Jason wouldn't dare betray them, they may have used methods such as recording the entire process of handling the body to use as leverage and control over him in the future. It's very likely that the items police found when searching Jason's house, including fragments on the floor or concrete, were related to the burial and concealment of Zebb's body at that time. The presence of this evidence only further reveals the dark and complicated story behind Zebb's mysterious disappearance. This is the entire hypothesis proposed by the detectives after compiling and analyzing the clues and events related to the case. However, the truth remains an unsolved mystery. What truly happened on January 2, 2000, when Zebb Quinn, an 18-year-old promising young man, suddenly disappeared without a trace, is still the big question that both authorities and the public continue to seek answers for. According to detectives and the online community, the case seems to revolve around the complicated relationship between Zebb and Misty Taylor, a young woman Zebb had feelings for. However, things became more serious when Misty was in a relationship with Wesley Smith, a man described as a thug, aggressive, and willing to use violence to control everything around him. This love triangle created latent conflicts, especially when Zebb proactively reached out and expressed concern for Misty, despite Wesley's warnings and threats. The hypothesis proposed suggests that Wesley could be the mastermind behind the entire situation. He cleverly manipulated the surrounding relationships, including the involvement of Zebb's aunt, to devise a well-thought-out plan. Wesley not only sought to create alibis to cover his tracks, but also used sophisticated tactics, such as sending messages from Zebb's aunt's house, to deceive him and lead him into a trap he couldn't anticipate. Although numerous pieces of evidence and clues found at the scene, particularly in Jason Owens' house, a close friend of Zebb suggested that Jason could be the direct perpetrator. Many details and motives remain unclear. Jason's role in this case might have been as a victim who was manipulated or forced to participate in dealing with the aftermath caused by Wesley's group. The case of Zebb Quinn's disappearance is not only a mysterious story of crime, but also reflects the darker sides of human relationships, where jealousy, hatred, and personal ambition can lead to tragic outcomes. To this day, the case still leaves many unanswered questions, with the truth lying hidden beneath layers of secrets and lies that only those involved truly know.